Halloween is a time for spooky games and scary games, but sometimes the games aren't spooky because they're scary, but because they're a bit janky and crap. Oh look, it's Days Gone. Remember when this game was announced and it looked like the next big AAA game that was going to be super amazing and fun? Okay, so it looked like The Last of Us with some meth sprinkled on top, but seeing this bloody scene with all the mad zombies was amazing, and it closed out Sony's E3 2016 press conference, which is usually an extra seal of approval. And then it was delayed for 38 years. Meanwhile, Last of Us Part 2 was announced, which took all the wind out of its sails, and then the more they showed of the game, the worse it looked. And then it eventually came out, and there was nothing. No one really said anything about it. I mean, some people did, but just not very loud, because the game didn't make a loud splash, which is weird when it's a Sony exclusive. Usually those games, they're a bit more splashy. So let's find out if this game is actually good or not. Spoilers, it isn't, and it makes me cry. So look, this game's going to get compared to The Last of Us a lot since it's Sony exclusive, revolving around a story-focused zombie apocalypse where the main character loses someone close to him in the beginning and it drives him to do stuff. And humans are bad and possibly worse than zombies or whatever. So the game starts with the world going to hell, and Deacon, it's a terrible name, is trying to save his wife, and he threatens this guy with a gun unless he takes her in the helicopter, leaving him and his mate Boozer. That's his name. We just have to move on. We can't really get distracted with details like this. It's a very dramatic game where the two main characters are named Deacon and Boozer. So we have this dramatic opening that leads into the opening card, and let's just pretend this hits you similarly to how the beginning of The Last of Us starts, where Joel's daughter is murdered. And then let's compare to see how both games manage the pace for us, the interested player. Because after a good setup, you want the game to have a good easing transition. Partly so you can process what's just happened, and also because now it has your attention, it needs to keep it. If we went back to see how The Last of Us does this, after the opening card shows, it goes into the opening credits, which also operates as exposition for what happens to the world next, and the story is always moving forward. Then it comes back into a cutscene and... what? Yes, I'm in. I love it. Now let's have a look at Days Gone. Opening with a cutscene, we quickly establish everyone, and personally I sympathise more with this guy. But let's just chalk that down to my preference for hard-working people who are just trying to do their job. Anyway, we'll play it from there, and we'll see what happens in real time.
What did you do?
Yeah, you can say that again. I know sometimes loading screens can't be helped, but surely there was something that could have been done here. The game has only just started and it completely takes you out of what little immersion it had you in. And because it took so long, I picked up my phone and I'm now more interested in Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson eating 8 stacks of pancakes on Instagram. Now you may be thinking, is it fair to keep on comparing this to The Last of Us? I don't know. Would you compare my new movie to The Avengers if I called it The Splavengers and it was made up of heroes such as Gold Titanium Alloy Man, Mr. USA, Handsome God, and the Incrunkable Bulk? When I do eventually get back to the game after a brief cutscene, we're on a bike. Great, straight into the action. Here I go. Okay, it goes a little long, and apparently the game, even after loading for the entirety of this year, still can't handle the game's assets with the speed I'm going. And then, you'll never guess what? Another very quick cutscene, which to be honest would have been much better if they had us playing in instead. I'm pretty sure this would have been a good time to let me learn how to shoot, but you go right ahead. Then another loading screen. The impact of games like these relies on immersion and feeling engaged with what's going on. How am I meant to feel that when you boot me out every 30 seconds? Okay, just look at this and tell me it was necessary.
Come on.
The game even swaps to an in-game perspective transition, like it's going to seamlessly transition from a cutscene to gameplay. You know, like games have done for years. It just feels stitched together. I know it may sound nitpicky, but it's clear they're going for this kind of highbrow, well-written, well-made game, and instead it just feels like it's cobbled together with mud and biker meth. This isn't an indie game, it's a AAA game, the same price as every other very high-quality game. Now, the game finally has a section where the characters actually talk to each other without the help of a cutscene, which is crazy to see at this point, even though tutorials keep on popping up and pausing whenever they're mid-sentence.
Hey, wait!
Then some action! And by action I mean you get shot in-game and then get booted out into another cutscene. Look how unnecessary this is, it's like 5 seconds long! Once again, it breaks up what little momentum we had going, and it completely buggers the immersion I may have somehow had going as well, since I don't even have my gun when it cuts back to the in-game section, when I clearly do in the cutscene. Cutscene ends with me pointing a gun, fading out into game again, and I'm just stood like a lemon with no gun. Boozer here still packing his 12 gauge, apparently I just felt like putting mine away during the shootout and I can't take it out again, since the game hasn't decided I'm allowed a gun yet. After a 15-second walking section, there's finally an in-game shootout. Only joking, here's another cutscene. Help me, Dwayne! Remember when people would call The Last of Us an interactive movie? This is an interactive movie, except instead of doing the shooting and making any kind of decision, it just has me walking down a bit of a hill before taking over again. The game just does all this for me. They had me chase this guy with a bike after he killed someone close to the character, I tracked him down with my bear hunting tutorial, and then it takes over for the payoff. Was I completely incapable of pointing and shooting at a still target? Was the game completely oblivious to the fact that putting you in control adds weight to actions like this? Watching someone shoot another person in the head doesn't feel half as immersive as doing it yourself. Don't take that out of context, by the way. I'm strictly talking about games right now. We're 13 minutes into the game, by the way, and I've timed it. Less than 3 minutes of that has been me playing. The loading screens have had a longer go than I have. The first 13 minutes of The Last of Us has you in control for so much longer. You have time to explore a house, learning how to interact with items as a character who won't even be alive in 15 minutes. Just by doing this, I was more connected to this little girl than anyone in Days Gone. When the outbreak happens, you get into a car that, while you don't control, you get to move the camera around and see the world crumble in real time. You kick the window out after you crash. You're actively running away, fighting back infected whilst in danger of being killed in-game, which means the game trusts you to figure out all this on your own. All the while, exposition is being sewn into it all. It's 90% gameplay, 100% immersion. It's an introduction that slowly burns before ramping up into pure chaos, serving as a perfect taster for what this game will be like. Quiet personal moments bookended by horrifying tension. Meanwhile, Days Gone is finally putting you in control for longer than 8 seconds, so it's finally time to move about and explore properly. Oh, for fuck's sake! Is this an open world game or is it a linear game? Because if it's an open world game, then I should be allowed to move around a bit more freely than this. If it's a linear game, then I shouldn't be in the mountains with multiple branching paths. There should be stuff in the way. Could you imagine if you were playing The Last of Us and when you were having a look around it said, "Oi, stop, you're not meant to be here. Stop it or else. Why are you asking why we didn't block it off? We don't want you to be here. Just stop asking questions." Once you figure out what path you're on though, don't worry, you're on your way to the next loading screen with a cutscene afterwards. I know what you're thinking though. Jim, when can I jump on the back of Boozer's bike and be guided through the next part of the level? I've been in control of this character way too long.
Don't worry, pal. I got you covered.
Again, here's Last of Us, having you as a passenger, giving you interesting things to look at. Days Gone, trees.
Hold on, something's blocking the road. Careful. I Saw a setup like this a couple days ago. A bunch of rippers blocked the road with an old truck.
Doesn't look like it. There's a pretty sizable gap between those cars there.
Come on, help me move it.
What? Just squeeze your bike through. I'm sure you can manage. It's pretty big. Look, See? What's the problem? What is going...
Quick, go titanium alloy man! I can't hold back Blanos any longer! I'm coming, handsome god. I guess you are just a handsome face after all. Oh no, Mr. USA, get to the incredible bulk before he destroys not New York.